Welcome to my channel, and today you're going to design this flyer in Adobe Photoshop, and I'm going to teach you how to design this from scratch. In today's tutorial, we are not going to do the usual thing that we do, that is to click on new file and then go ahead and then select the dimension. But for today, we're going to do something different. So we're going to start with one of the resource files, which is this one. So for me to get this particular resource file, I had to do something in ChatGPT. So let me just show you what I did. So what I did is that I was scrolling through Pinterest, thinking of what to do for this Eid Mubarak celebration, and I came across some nice designs by other creators, and I thought of it that I'm going to create something similar. So with that thought in mind, I brought the image into ChatGPT, and then I made ChatGPT generate. I made it isolate the 3D PNG or object, and then the next thing that I did is that I gave it a prompt and asked it to create based on that 3D scene, and then create my image for me. And then GPT did exactly what I needed. At first, I wanted an outdoor view, but then later I considered that, what if I just did some plain background things, and then it worked. So that's how we arrived at this image that we're going to use for our design today. So for today's design, we're going to start with this PNG. So you're going to come here into Adobe Photoshop, and then we paste it right away. Great. So after I've pasted it right away, I'm going to unlock it. After we unlock it, we're going to do something else, and what we're going to do is that I'm going to use my crop tool, and then I'll expand the scene, okay, to be about 1000, maybe 1300 pixels, but that will be too big, so 1250 is okay. Now after I do that, the next thing I'm going to do is that let me go back to my move tool, and then I'm going to content aware fill the space. Okay, so before I do the content aware fill the space, I'm going to use the marquee to select the size before I do my content aware fill. Now after I do that, I go into, I'll take this image, I'll take this edits, then I go to content aware fill. Great. So after I do that, my content aware fill is loading. It's going to automatically fill this space based on the underlining layer. Good. I think it has done that for me. I could choose to increase it, the awareness, but I like this awareness, so I'm going to just click OK or apply any of them. So let me click OK. Great. So after I've done, I'm going to press Ctrl D to deselect what I have here, and I press V to go back to my move tool. Great. After I do that, I'm going to do some photo manipulations, but before I do any of those photo manipulations, I would like to select the shape, the RAM. Okay, I would like to select it out of the scene. So I'm going to use I have to use my object selection tool in Adobe Photoshop. So with my object selection tool, I'm going to automatically, the object selection tool is going to automatically select this object. Okay, it's going to make an exact selection, but before it makes the exact selection, I have to go around and then teach Photoshop what to actually select. So we're going to wait for some time, depending on how fast your PC is. It's going to do that. Oh, I did a mistake. I should have done the selection on this layer instead. So I'm going to do that again. Make sure you take your time whilst you're drawing around it. Okay, we'll not rush through it because you're going to eventually make a mistake. And this thing too is very sensitive. When you make a mistake with your selections, it's going to select an object you don't really even need to select in the first place, which is very worrying. Okay, Good. So I'm going to keep on slowly, and then I would allow Photoshop to make its own selection of the objects. So like I said before, this takes a while. It takes some time before the objects actually get selected. After that selection is done, I want to cut it out, okay? But then I want it to be a new layer, so I press Ctrl J on my keyboard, and then it cuts it out for it to become a new layer. Now, after it does that, I'm going to join this layer with this layer together by pressing Ctrl plus dot on my keyboard. What I'm trying to do is I'm going to convert it to a smart object. So a shortcut on my PC I've created is Ctrl plus dot. Personalized shortcuts. Whilst this layer is on top, selected over there. So I'm going to do some manipulations, like I said before. And the manipulations I want to do is that I'm trying to create a scene where there is a light falling on this layer. So let me just show you. I'm going to use my pen to draw. Okay, so let me just do that. So I'm going to do this. I'll click here, and I'll click here. I'll make sure that your pen tool has been set to shape, not path. Then I'm going to draw here, and I'm going to draw here. Let me start from the top so that what is happening? Okay, let me start again. Here, with my shift key because I want it to be straight, and then here too. Great. I want this to be on top because it's like a light is falling on, on the RAM. So I go into filter, I go to blur, I go to Gaussian blur, then I convert to smart objects, and then I make sure I increase my blur. I increase it like this. I think it's fine like this. Great. So after I do that, I'm going to do some manipulations already on this layer. So over here, I go into my adjustment layer, and I go into my brightness, and then I'm going to create a clipping max, and then I'll make sure that I clip it to the shape itself. Okay, good. Then over here, I press Ctrl I on my keyboard to invert the mask. Then I enable my brush and make sure that my foreground color has been set to white. Then I brush the horns of this round. Okay, so you see that there is light coming from the top, and because of the light coming from the top, you expect that the light will be all around these places. Okay, good. The light will definitely fall on this part of the body, and the light will also fall on the sharp edges of the body. If it's too much, you can always press Ctrl Z to revert what you've done. Great. I like it like this. So I'm going to change the blend mode quickly to overlay. Overlay would do, but then let me leave the blend mode as such. Okay, so I'll leave it at normal, and then what I would do instead is to go into my blending options. So I right click and I choose blending options, and then when I go into my blending options, I want to adjust the underlining layer instead. So okay, so after I've done with that, what I would do is that for this brightness layer, I'm going to come over here and then reduce the brightness. Okay, I don't want the brightness to be so much. I think I prefer it this way. And then I'll create another layer for this one, which will be an exposure layer. This time around, the clipping mask has been created already, so I'll reduce the exposure down. And then I press Ctrl I on my keyboard. I enable my brush with the V key, and then I brush out the part that is supposed to be dark. I mean the part that light won't fall there. Okay, good. If it's too much, you can always do one thing, that is to reduce, the intensity of the exposure. Okay, you can do that. So I'm going to do that pretty soon. The areas that light isn't going to fall at all would be pretty dark, so it must be felt, so I'll come over here and then the exposure will be decreased a bit. So let's see the before after. You see it has an effect on it. Great. So let me bring back my light layer, and for this light layer I think the light is a bit too bright, so I can make it soft. So I can choose soft light, to make it soft. If I make a soft light too, that means that I can decrease my Gaussian blur. I can decrease it a bit, and then I click OK. After doing that, I want to bring in another source of light on top of this one, and I have that resource right over here. This one is some sort of glitter. Okay, it's like glitters that is falling on the RAM. Okay, so for this glitter, mind you must always consider the angles when you are working. And I change my blend mode to I think screen would work nicely. Yes, I can change the blend mode to screen, and then I'm going to press Ctrl L on my keyboard to adjust the levels. Okay, there's too much of whiteness in it, and just adjusting that and reducing the levels would correct that. Good. I think I like what I'm seeing right now. Good. Now let me brush off some of the glitter that is falling on Ismail. So I'm going to brush it off with my brush key, and then I press X on my keyboard to invert the mask, and I brush some of it off. Okay, now here there's going to be a text layer here, so if there's too much brightness behind the text layer, you're not going to see the text clearly. It's going to be a worry. So that brings me to the next thing I'm going to do, that is to introduce a hue and saturation layer. On my hue and saturation, I want to adjust the colors, almost adjust everything. Okay, so I'm going to colorize the whole thing first. When I colorize it, then I'll increase my hue to around 263, and then my saturation should come up to, at this point just do what works for you. Okay, I'm doing exactly what works for me, and I'll reduce the lightness to about -4. Great. So at this point I think I done with the background, so I'm going to click on shifts, and then I'll select the last layer, and I press Ctrl G on my keyboard, then I call this DJ, and that's for the background. I would want to increase the size of this background so that it's not compulsory for me to do that, but definitely I'm going to create a new layer at this point, and then I'm going to use this solid color. You can copy the color code, and I'm going to enable my brush and press your caps lock key for you to really see your brush. So with this, I'm going to do this exactly this that I just did, and then I could increase the opacity of this one, opacity to about 70, maybe 71. I think it seems like I did more than I should have done. Okay, I can bring it down a bit. Good. So I'm going through the stress of typing out, the copy, all the text that should be included in this layer. I've done that, so I'm going to bring it in. You can just you can just do what I did. Okay, good. So I would expand it, but before I expand it, I have to explain to you all the fonts that I use, and most of it that I used was Arsenic Trial. I should make sure that it's in the middle. So yes, the header here over here, the text at the top is Arsenic Trial. I want it to come down a bit. I think it's better now. Yeah. So the text I use at the bottom is Arsenic Trial. At the top is Arsenic Trial, and then for the Mubarak is Poppins, and then this one, I think this one was a very different font. It's Alaron. This is the Alaron font. So I did these font combinations with this flyer. So like we always do when we are done with our flyer, we do some adjustments to it so that it pops out the more. And this time around, the adjustment I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in this layer first to start with our adjustment. So this one seems like some scratches on the surface sort of thing. This one has a lot of light in it, so we might have to cleanse it, but we change the blend mode for this one to the color dodge. So what I was trying to tell you is this: it has some sort of light in it which we have to cleanse. So we create our layer mask, we use our brush key, and then we clean a lot of it out. Okay, you have to clean a lot of it out. I'm just going to leave very little of it. Okay, and what is left, we don't want it to be felt so much, so we can decrease our opacity to about 15 or 16, 25. I think 25 is okay. And then there seems to be a stain on Prophet's dress, so I'm gonna cleanse it. Great, I like it like this. And then again, you're going to bring in an intense form of light. This light source is like it's falling on the sheep. This light is falling on the sheep. So we do something like this. And then, the trick is all about blend modes. So the blend mode for this one could also be linear dodge. If you feel like the angle is not right, you could adjust the angle. Okay, so I'm going to do just that, adjusting the angle so that the light is actually falling on the ship. Good. So I like this blend mode, but the problem is about the opacity. So I could reduce opacity down to 30. I think this would do. 30 would do. So at this point, let me show you before and after. The light layer has even introduced some sort of glow into our design, like we really wanted it to be. Good. I'm checking it out to see that the lighting, it isn't either too much or too less. We don't want to, this layer that is here, I think it should come up a bit so that the underlying text is much clearer. The text on top is much clearer. Okay, good. Once we do this, we are going to do the very last thing, that is our color balance. Okay, we do all this to enhance the contrasts. One layer shouldn't be brighter than the other layer, that sort of thing. And you apply curves to fix the contrast issue. You see, sometimes it looks like the shape, it's looking brighter than the other layers and all that. It's all about contrast issues. In this layer, I'm not going to do that. So I'd rather use color balance to fix the very final thing. So I go into my adjustments layer, I go into color balance. My color balance, I shift towards the blues, I shift towards the cyan. I go into my shadows. I want to make it realistic, so I can go here but not so much. I can go into my reds, I can go into my magenta. Midtones have been fixed. Now the highlights, I want to highlight the bright lights. So I think that would do before, after. Good. So you see that our final flyer has been improved and has been way better than it was before. And that is how we created this Eid flyer in Adobe Photoshop. I hope you like this video. I hope you subscribe and share with your friends. See you in the next video. Bye bye.